This is in response to your recent coverage after Quebec's National Assembly passed a unanimous motion last week that called for Quebec shipyards to be permitted access to future federal shipbuilding programs. It took less than 48 hours for politicians in Nova Scotia to respond with cries of outrage. The Premier came out stating that the shipbuilding monopoly was Nova Scotia's, and then a local member of the federal Liberal caucus quickly jumped on the cause, emphasizing the support that Irving Shipbuilding holds amongst the 32 Atlantic Canadian MPs. Okay, but what does Quebec's ask have to do with Atlantic Canada? The answer is absolutely nothing. The National Shipbuilding Procurement Strategy was introduced by the former Conservative government as a sourcing or procurement strategy for a specific, limited, number and type of ships it needed, hence the name. Why the new government decided to take the P out of the NSPS, to make it just the National Shipbuilding Strategy, is anyone's guess, though for everyone following the saga, they will know that it is something I have been doing for some time. So the National Shipbuilding Strategy, as it now is and as grandiose as it sounds, consists solely of two very simple umbrella agreements with Irving Shipbuilding and Seaspan Shipyards. They simply state that the government may negotiate with those two shipyards to build a specific number and type of ships. The number and type of ships is defined in the final annex of the umbrella agreement and reflects what has been widely published. For Irving, it's 6 offshore patrol ships and 15 surface combatants. For Seaspan, it's 5 ships for the Coast Guard and 2 supply ships for the Navy. It is by no means an all-encompassing strategy to renew the entire federal fleet or bolster the wider domestic shipbuilding industry. Certainly nothing worthy of its new name, which suggests that it is the silver bullet that the shipbuilding industry, the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Coast Guard need it to be. That's because it only includes a handful of ships and doesn't include the many large ships that will be required for a full renewal of the federal fleet. They are not included in the National Shipbuilding Strategy. That is where the opportunity lies for other shipyards in Canada. For everything from innovative programs like our Resolve-class naval support ship to new heavy icebreakers for the Coast Guard to replace ships that are already rusted out. Davie has indeed made offers to the federal government to help out, but it has only ever offered to build one of the ships that was already penned for another shipyard under the NSS. That was the Polar Icebreaker, and we offered to build it in 2013, given reports that Seaspan Shipyard would only be able to build ships one at a time, meaning that the Coast Guard's Polar Icebreaker would have wait for a decade before construction was to begin and until after the Navy got its supply ships. That news broke while we were repairing the existing Polar Icebreaker, CCGS Lewis Street, Laron, and it was evident that the Coast Guard couldn't wait another decade.